Hey gamers, welcome back to another Minecraft video. Today we're going to be talking about all the things I hate about being a student here at Stanford University. In my last video I talked about all the things that I love about Stanford, and so I figured that for people who are trying to learn more about Stanford, it wouldn't be fair to just give all the positive things about this school, so today I'm here with all the negatives. Just like before, this list is going to be completely subjective because it's based on my experiences and the things that I dislike about Stanford. So if you're someone who's not me, your likes and dislikes about this place are going to be completely different, so just keep that in mind. And with that, let's jump right in. Ooh. First item on the list is the quarter system. This may come as a surprise given that in my last video I said that the quarter system was one of my favorite things about Stanford, but at the same time it's also one of my least favorite things about this school. This is because things just move so much quicker during a quarter system as compared to a semester system. It feels like it's always just go, and there's never really any time to rest because we do have to move through the materials so much quicker than we would in a semester. Sometimes we'll have midterms only 4 weeks into the quarter, which is really early compared to a lot of other schools because they have more time to learn the material. And so I've come to the point where I'm just trying to get through each week at a time so that I can just catch a little bit of a break on the weekend, but the weekends do go by so quickly to the point where it's like it's not even there. It's just always work. So while I do appreciate the quarter system in that it lets me take a lot more classes than I would normally, it also means that I have to move through classes so much quicker, which for someone with a very small brain like mine, it's a lot to keep up, but there is no but. That's the end of the sentence. Second item on the list is the location of campus. The location of campus does also have its drawbacks, mainly given the fact that we are in California. And not just anywhere in California, we are in the Bay Area. Everything here is so much more expensive than it should be just because we are in Silicon Valley. I think gas around here goes for around $7 per gallon. So I personally don't drive around here, but I do have friends that do. They are not having a great time because gas is so expensive here, and I am just skating around on my little skateboard. I guess for me, the warmer weather and proximity to Asian food does kind of make up for it, but at the same time, it is quite expensive to be living in the Bay Area. So something else I don't like about Stanford is some of the things that the administration is doing around here. Now, I'm not really sure if I should talk about this in case Stanford sends their goons after me, but here we are. Now, I get that the administration is trying and all, but some of the things they do sometimes can seem a bit unresponsive and cold. For one, some of Stanford's COVID policies have been a bit questionable, and for two, there is also the neighborhood system, which I will get more into later. With those things, the university did make attempts at taking in student input, and they didn't really do anything with that input. And in this way, it's kind of like student voices are being heard, but not listened to. The administration is kind of just doing whatever they want, and that's not exactly very cool of them. Alright, next item on the list is the food here at Stanford. Now, last time I mentioned that the food here can be very hit or miss, but when it misses, it misses completely. With the meal plan I'm on for the dorm that I'm living in, during the week my meals are pretty solid because they're cooked by the dining staff here in my dorm, but on weekends when the dining staff aren't here and I am forced to make the trek over to Wilbur Dining and I see that they have rock cod for dinner, sometimes the food at the dining hall is not that great. Which I think is kind of strange because on their Instagram, they post these really nice pictures of food that looks really good. The food on their Instagram looks very good. So my question is, where is that food going? Because it's not going to us. I'm here with raw cod. So what's going on? But in any case, it's not really that big of a problem for me until the weekend, at which point I have resorted to ordering Sichuan food basically every weekend because I don't really want to go to the dining hall. Alright, next item on the list is the thievery that is going on campus. Sometimes I would get emails about stolen bikes or stolen car batteries or stolen catalytic converters, and sometimes in my dorm group chats people would complain about people stealing their packages, and I always thought that it would never happen to me because I am just so cool that no one would want to steal from me. until someone stole from me. Back in the summer when I first moved to campus, I had to buy a bike because how else was I going to get around campus? And so I ended up dropping $500 on a bike, and it lasted less than a month before someone stole it. I honestly have still not financially recovered from that loss. And so I am quite upset that someone had the gall to steal my bike, which is especially astonishing to me because my bike was locked up while there were other bikes in that same bike lot that were not locked. Another thing that I don't like about Stanford is all the fake conversations that go on with people that you don't really know all that well, which I have come to affectionately call NPC interactions. So sometimes you'll just be walking to class or something and you'll see someone who you've met a couple times before but you wouldn't really call a friend. And so whenever you meet them, the conversation is always like, "Hi, how are you? How are your classes going? We should grab lunch sometime." "Okay, gotta go to class. Bye." And then you never see them again. Especially when you meet someone for the first time, it's just, "Hi, what is your name? Oh, that's so cool. What's your major? Wow, that's so cool. Nice meeting you." Really feels like an NPC interaction where you have like set dialogue options that you just have to go through until you can continue on with your quest. So cringe. Okay, so next item on the list is the size and location of campus. In terms of its size, campus is just so large that it really isn't feasible to walk anywhere. Like, you have to have a bike or a skateboard or some other form of transportation because otherwise it will take you 20 minutes to walk to your class and 20 minutes to walk back to your dorm. So if you're someone who walks everywhere, you are gonna have a pretty terrible time here because everything is so spread out. And then in terms of its location, Stanford is pretty isolated from the outside world. Here it's called the Stanford bubble because it's kind of like we're living in a bubble. It's kind of inconvenient to leave campus to go do something because it becomes like a whole adventure, even if it's only to like Walmart like 15 minutes away. I think it's been like 3 or 4 weeks since the last time I left campus. And honestly, for me, it's not really that big of a problem besides the fact that Seafood City and Jollibee are like 45 minutes away and I do not own a car, so don't get to go to those places all that often. Something else I don't like about Stanford is this sort of grind culture that they have going on where it feels like you always have to be doing something. And this kind of lends into the idea of imposter syndrome and duck syndrome because you're at this pretty elite, pretty prestigious university with some of the greatest minds of our generation and they're all doing all sorts of different crazy things and I am just some guy that somehow got into this school and I don't really know what I'm doing. And I think this is something that was especially visible to me because I'm a pre-med student and I see what all of the other pre-meds in my year are doing. A lot of times it feels like I am falling behind and that they're all doing all these fancy things and I'm still trying to get through first year chemistry. It does kind of feel like there is this culture on campus where you always have to be working and that if you're taking a break, you are a loser and you are losing. For me, it's definitely been kind of suffocating. Sometimes I wish I could just laze around and watch anime, but unfortunately, I'm a pre-med. But people do talk about this duck syndrome and how you think that everyone else is doing fine, but they are just struggling as much as you are. So I guess it does give me some solace that not everyone is picture perfect as I may think they are, and we're all just struggling, and that's okay. Next big thing on my list is Greek life. Now, you're gonna have Greek life at essentially any university you go to, but in any case, I think it is quite gross. Now, I am not that big of a fan of parties in general, which I know may come as a surprise because at first glance I come off as this huge party animal who goes to raves every weekend and is hitting kegs on the weekdays. Parties in general, not really my thing. I think that they are quite gross and also a big waste of time. Greek life, I think, takes it to a whole nother level because it does seem kind of like a cult. And the dorm that I live in is essentially across the street from a sorority house. And I'm pretty sure there are frat people living in my dorm. So there are times when I hear pretty loud parties like across the hall or across the street, and they are quite loud and quite aggravating. So and another thing that I don't like about Stanford is all these miscellaneous things that we have to pay for. given that we are already paying to go to this school, which I think is absolutely crazy because tuition here, very, very high. It's like $80,000 a year. Fortunately, I am on financial aid, so do not have to bear the full brunt of that cost, but it is still quite expensive to go here. And on top of that, there are just all these random things that we have to pay for. For one, we have to pay to use the printer, which I think is pretty crazy because I have to print things for my classes, but I have to pay to print those things for my classes. Second, we have to pay a fee when we get locked out of our rooms and we have to call for someone to come get a key to open our room, which unfortunately has happened to me on a number of occasions. You have to pay like $50 to get back into your room, which is crazy because why does it need to be so expensive? And third, we also have to pay a lot of fees when it comes to club sports. But at the same time, Stanford has something like $27 billion, and yet they can't pay to support clubs and stuff with money. It has to come out of student pockets, which doesn't really make much sense to me because, again, this place is very expensive, and yet they're making it more expensive. All right, next item on the list, and this is something that's honestly a bit more nitpicky compared to the other things on this list, but recently Stanford got rid of to-go containers in all their dining halls. I guess they might be trying to be more environmentally conscious, but I don't know, I just want my takeout containers. Whenever they have katsu chicken on Wednesday nights, usually I would get like 3 servings of katsu chicken and have like 3 to-go boxes in addition to the 2 katsu chickens that I already ate. And I take those 3 boxes back to my room and I eat them over the course of the next like 3 hours. And unfortunately, I can no longer do that, which is the real tragedy here. Next thing that I really hate about Stanford, the chemistry department. Now, as I've mentioned, I am a pre-med student, unfortunately, which means that I do have to take chemistry classes here, unfortunately. And I don't know what it is, but the chemistry department here is quite notorious for being very ruthless when it comes to a lot of things. Like some of my friends who have tested positive for COVID during midterms week didn't really get the proper accommodations that they should have from the chemistry department. And I know of quite a handful of students who used to be pre-med but became not pre-med anymore after taking the chemistry classes here because, I don't know, maybe the chemistry classes here are designed to weed out pre-med students, but it's such a gross department. If I was not a pre-med student, I would not even touch the chemistry classes here because they are truly unrelenting. A couple months ago, I made a video where I ranked all the classes that I took in my freshman year. And in my freshman year, I didn't take any chemistry classes. I had only started taking them this year. But when I do make a video on ranking my classes from sophomore year, chemistry, sheesh, straight to the F tier. All right, and so one more thing that I dislike about Stanford that I think is almost as bad as the chemistry department, it is the neighborhood system. So in previous years, the way that housing worked is that in your freshman year, you essentially get randomly placed into a dorm, but then after that, there is this kind of like a lottery system where you draw tickets and then you can pick your housing from there, and you have a choice from basically anywhere on campus. But with a new neighborhood system, campus is divided into 8 different neighborhoods, which you are essentially confined to for all 4 years that you're here. And so my problem with the neighborhood system is that it really limits your options for housing because you are confined to your specific neighborhood. It also means that you are unable to live in the same dorm as friends from other neighborhoods because you guys are in different neighborhoods, so you're like separated. And for the most part, I do not know of a single student who likes the neighborhood system. Honestly, I don't really understand why the university implemented it in the first place, given that when they asked for student input, people were not really big fans of it, but they went ahead with it anyways. I've heard from some people that the neighborhood system was implemented because Stanford wanted to be more like schools such as Harvard. I think it's ridiculous, and I am not having a good time. Neighborhood system, not a fan. Alright, so this has been a list of my least favorite things about being a student here at Stanford University. Just to be clear, my intention isn't to just trash on Stanford. I do not hate Stanford. In fact, I am quite thankful and grateful that I am able to attend this place. But at the same time, I wanted to show that this school isn't the perfect paradise that a lot of people think it is. Hopefully you were able to learn more about what kind of place Stanford is. And if you haven't already, be sure to check out my video on my favorite things about being a student at Stanford. And with that, be sure to like and subscribe, hit the bell icon, and I will see you guys next time. Bye.